Ye anila premadana karuna pracho.
Ye anilo premadana karuna pracho.
Ye anila premadana karuna pracho.
Ye anilo premadana karuna pracho.
Hena Prabhu Kotagela Acharya Thakur.
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 Kahamara Swarup Rupa Kaha Sanatan.
Mahamora Swarupa Kaha Sanatan.
Kaha Dasa Raghunata Patita Pavan.
Kahadasa Raghunata Patita Pavan.
Kahamara Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kaviraj.
Mahamora Bhatta Yuga Kaha Kaviraj.
Eka Kale Kotagela Goranatara.
Ekakale Kotagela Goranatara.
Eka Kale Kotagela Goranatara.
Ekakale Kotagela Goranatara.
Pashane Kotiba Mata Annale Pashiba.
Vasane Kutibo Mata Anale Pashibo.
Gauranga Gunera Nidhi Kotagele Pabha.
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 Se Sabha Sangira Sange Eko Lovilas Se sangana paya kande naratamadas.
Se sangana paya kande naratamadas.
Ye anila premadana karuna pracho. Ena Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur.
Ena Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur.
Okay, that's the translation. Sparshada Bhagavad Viraha Janati Vilapa. Lamentation due to separation from the Lord and his associates, from Prarthana, Narottam Das Thakur. He who brought the treasure of divine love and who is filled with compassion and mercy, where is such a personality as Srinivas Acharya gone? Where are my Srup Damodar and Rupa Goswami? Where is Sanatan? Where is Raghunath Das, the savior of the fallen? Where are my Raghunath Bhatta and Gopal Bhatta, and where is Krishnadas Kaviraj? Where did Lord Gauranga, the great dancer, suddenly go? I will smash my head against a rock and enter into fire. Where will I find Lord Gauranga, the reservoir of all wonderful qualities? Being unable to obtain the association of Lord Gauranga, accompanied by all these devotees in whose association he performed his pastimes, Narottam Das simply weeps. So today is the disappearance of Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj. Thank you. It's alright. Gonna hit my face. So it's okay. Okay, so we have a verse on the board. This is Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj's mantra, offering respects to him. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha. Namo Gaura Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye
Vipralambara Sambodhe Arambujayate Namaha.
Namo Gaura Kisoraya Sakshad Vairagyamurte Vipralambara Sambodhe Arambujayate Namaha. Okay, word-by-word translation. Namaha, obeisances. Gaura Kisoraya, and to Gaura Kishora Das Babaji. Sakshat, directly. Vairagya, renunciation. Murtaye, unto the personified. Vipralamba, of separation from Krishna. Rasa, of the mellow. Ambodhe, O ocean. Pada Ambujaya, unto the lotus feet. Te, your. Namaha, obeisances. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj, the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is renunciation personified. He is always merged in a feeling of separation and intense love of Krishna. Yes, so today is the disappearance of Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's guru. So we will read something about him, about his life. In 1849, Srila Gaura Kishora Das Babaji left Grihastha life after the death of his wife. He moved to Vrindavan and took initiation from Sri Bhagavat Das Babaji, a disciple of Sri Jagannath Das Babaji. For over 30 years, Gaura Kishora Das stayed in Vrindavan performing bhajan under the trees at Giri Govardhan, Nandagram, Varshana, Radhakund, Suryakund, Raval, and Gokul. Sitting in seclusion, he chanted 200,000 names of Krishna every day. Does anybody remember how many rounds that is? Was it? Little less, yeah. 2, no. Close. 128 rounds of japa. He felt painful separation from Radha Govinda and cried profusely. As he wandered through the Dvashada Vana, 12 forests of Raj, he would loudly chant the holy names in a deep voice full of lamentation. He would also relish the following bhajan. Kota go prema mai radhe radhe, radhe radhe go jaya radhe radhe, deka dia prana rako radhe radhe, tamara kango tamadake radhe radhe, radhe vrindavan valasini radhe radhe, radhe kanu mana mohini radhe radhe, radhe asta sakir shiromani radhe radhe, radhe vrishabhanu nandani radhe radhe. Which means, O Radhe, Radhe, where are you? O goddess of ecstatic love, O Radhe, Radhe, all glories to you, O Radhe, Radhe. O Radhe, Radhe, please show yourself to me and thereby maintain my life. Your most despicable fallen servant calls out to you, O Radhe, Radhe. O Radhe, O artful enjoyer of Vrindavan, O Radhe, Radhe, O Radhe, O enchantress of Krishna's mind, O Radhe, Radhe, O Radhe. A lot of O Radhes, huh? O crest jewel of your 8 main girlfriends, O Radhe, Radhe, O Radhe, O delightful daughter of Maharaj Vrishabhanu, O Radhe, Radhe. Srila Babaji Maharaj's mood of renunciation was unparalleled. Sometimes he ate mud from the banks of Radhakund, or the Yamuna. Other times he took madhukari from the Vrajvasis. Madhukari is a Babaji's daily practice of begging a little food from 1 to 7 houses, just as a bee collects a drop of honey from each flower. He saw all the Vrajvasis, residents of Vrindavan, as being the direct personal associates of Radha and Krishna. As a result of this vision, he would pay respects to every person, cow, animal, bird, tree, creeper, insect, ant in the holy Dham. While staying in Varshana, he made a flower garland every day for Radha Krishna. After 30 years of rendering intimate services to Radha Krishna in Vrindavan, Babaji felt inspired by the divine couple to see Sri Navadvip Dham. He visited all the Leela sthans of Lord Gauranga and Gaura Mandala. In Navadvip, he used to sing one bhajan, which means, by receiving Nitai's mercy, one gets Gauranga's mercy, which makes one eligible for Krishna Prem. With Krishna Prem, one can attain the service of Srimati Radharani and the gopis. Gaura Kishoras Babaji was the embodied form of Sri Rupa Raghunath's renunciation. Completely detached, he would wash discarded cloth to cover his body. He drank from a rejected clay pot. Parched rice mixed with Ganges water, or simply some mud from Ganga's bank, sustained his life. So before we continue, I'll just offer prayers. Om Meganativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Maditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Karitivaja Lam Pangam Langate Gadim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurunditadanam Vanchakapadribeshta Kripasundabevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhanitananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So yeah, there's this idea of following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas and not imitating them, which there's a big difference between following someone and imitating them. Prabhupada would say that those, I believe it's, well, actually I'm thinking about something else. This idea that there's those who are useful to the spiritual master and those who are useless. And there's two different words. One is asar, which means I believe it means useless. Sar and asar, so useless and useful. And I believe Prabhupada in that same section in the Chaitanya Charitamrita is saying that one who imitates the spiritual master becomes useless. One who follows the spiritual master is useful disciple. So that's the idea, to not imitate but to follow. Once Andrew Prabhu, he was walking in the temple room, and he would dress in a certain way, he would act in a certain way, he would speak in a certain way. And he saw that one devotee was dressed like him. Because he would wear a chadar, and I don't even know how exactly he did it. It's quite unique actually. It was like Babaji style, but it wasn't exactly Babaji style, it was something like it. It was quite unique how he would dress. Because he'd have like this chadar and wrap it around his body, and this, it was almost like a one-piece dhoti chadar going on. So, and many devotees don't dress like that, and he would use a particular type of cloth, like a certain color and a certain material. So this devotee was dressed like him. And Ayandra Prabhu told the devotee that, he asked him, why are you dressed like me? He said, you be you and I'll be me. Don't imitate me. So, yeah, we could, devotees have followers. Like Andhra Prabhu, he has followers. Srila Prabhupada has followers. Every great devotee has followers. That's just natural, right? That people want to follow someone. We all want to follow someone that we think is worth following. But in following them, we want to be careful that we don't imitate them, because that's just unnatural. That's just weird, strange, unnatural, just unnecessary. And it's actually against the principles of Krishna consciousness, in the sense that we're all persons. We're not all one. We're all individual persons. And every individual person has a very special, unique personality that is supposed to be their personality, not somebody else's. just like Srila Prabhupada, he had a very unique, special personality that is unlike anyone's. So if his disciples or his grand disciples try to imitate him, it just doesn't work, because no one can really imitate him. And similarly, grand disciples imitating their spiritual master, Prabhupada's disciples, or now disciples of Prabhupada, disciples are accepting disciples. So the point is not to imitate. So some people, they may hear about this, about Gaura Kishora Das Babaji Maharaj, and they may want to imitate him, which is very difficult. 128 rounds. I mean, I don't know if I consciously know a devotee who's ever chanted 128 rounds in one day. Does anybody here know a devotee who'd do that? Yeah. Who? Oh, really? Really? Oh, that's wild. I mean, it's great. Yeah, and I remember actually hearing that he'd do that at Govardhan, 120 rounds. I just don't know how long that takes. 64 rounds is like almost 8 hours. For 128 rounds? Yeah, so it's a lot of rounds. So, yeah, so practically most people, they couldn't even try to imitate that. But some may try to imitate that, but maybe they shouldn't, because it's not so easy. And are they actually qualified to chant so many rounds? Because, of course, there's an idea that you could chant many rounds, but what are the quality of those rounds? If, like Prabhupada would make the point so many times throughout his books, people go to engage in solitary worship, but what are they thinking of? They're just thinking of money and sense gratification, and just, what's the point? So there has to be some qualifications. In Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, he was qualified, beyond qualified to do something like that. And what to speak of imitating him, and what in his diet? I mean, who could imitate that? Who could even try to imitate that? Do you remember what he would have from the reading? Yeah, parched rice with mixed with Ganges water, or simply some mud from the bank of the Ganga or Yamuna. You just have mud. Because the body has certain, when you're in the material world at least, the body has certain needs just to sustain itself, keep it going. So he would there'd be some urge of the belly, and he would just get some mud and just, put in his mouth, and then, kind of like, be quiet stomach, and he would continue with his worship. It's actually quite amazing. And it said that if you eat that mud, for some reason you go blind. It said he went blind. So, yeah, just to imitate his activities is very difficult. But we could follow him in our own way. Somehow or other. Try to follow him. Which even that may be difficult. Like Bhakti Swami, His Holiness Bhakti Swami, he wrote a book, Vamshi Das Babaji, a book about Vamshi Das Babaji. And Vamshi Das Babaji was also Babaji like Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, and he was very advanced. He's actually very advanced. It said that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would send his disciples to get the remnants from Vamshi Das Babaji. Take the remnants. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would take the remnants also. So I gave my copy of this book to Bhakti Vikas Swami while he was here in SanDiego, and Maharaj signed it. And then he told me, he said, you should become like him. And then, because on the front cover, there's only like 1 or 2 pictures of him. On the front cover, he's like squatting, and he's wearing a kopin. and he's wearing, and he has a big beard and like long dreads, and So Maharaj said, "Oh, you should become like him." And then he clarified. He said, "Not externally, like wearing a kopin and long dreads and beard, but he said how he loved Krishna." So I read that book, and even then, of course, I cannot even attempt to imitate him, but even just following him or becoming like him on any level, it still boggles me to some degree how I'm supposed to do that, because his love for Krishna was quite unique. And same was Gaura Kishora's Babaji. It was very unique how they would interact with Krishna, how they would interact with the world, how they interact with devotees. Like, for example, Vamshidas Babaji, it said that he would severely chastise his Gaurnitai deities. And sometimes he wouldn't feed them on purpose. He would tell them, you're being bad boys and you're not going to eat. He would actually not feed his deities. So things like that. So definitely it's difficult to imitate, and those who do usually fail. But following, that's what we need to do. Try to follow in our own way. And one of the main principles that he exemplified, as it's said within his Pranati here, Srila Gaura Kishora Pranati, that Sakshad Vairagya Murte, he was the personification of renunciation, of detachment. So that is something that, in principle, we could try to imbibe, something that quality he had of detachment. And that detachment that we exemplify may not look like the detachment he exemplifies, and probably won't. That living on the bank of the Ganga, eating Ganga mud and chanting 128 rounds and be detached from this world, we're most likely not going to do that in this life. But we could still be detached. And we could be detached in the way that you could say his only disciple, or his main disciple, main known disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was detached. He was riding in cars to Radhakund, which nowadays it'd be like some of us riding in a BMW to Radhakund or something. Like that was the equivalent. And all the Babajis were thinking, "Oh, what is he doing?" And he would dress with a coat and shoes and all these different things. And he would put his sannyasis in these big mansions, like Bagh Bazaar in Calcutta. Have you been to Bagh Bazaar in Calcutta? Oh yeah, did we? Oh yeah, I remember we went together, and there was that sannyasi there in the wheelchair. Remember? Yeah, he actually passed away. He was the Acharya. He passed away recently. Yeah, we went together. I remember now. We went together with that devotee. Yeah. So, Bagh Bazaar nowadays, it's huge. It's like a mansion, many rooms and big temple. I mean, back then though in Calcutta, it was really a mansion. So many years ago. And what did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur do? He resided there for some time. He put his sannyasis there. So this is also detachment. It's just like a different angle of vision. Gaura Kishora's Babaji had this detachment, real detachment, and also Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had this detachment. Or like Gaura Kishora's Babaji would go and hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They would associate together. Whereas externally, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a householder, he had 10 children, he was a district magistrate, he was a judge, going to court every day working, and he had a house and possessions. But still, Gaura Kishora's Babaji would go and associate with him. Why? Because he was also detached. So the detachment takes on different external appearances. But the main thing is that the mind is detached from this world. The consciousness is detached from this world. It's not interested in this world. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, his mind, his consciousness was not interested in this world. He was above this world, even though apparently still very much in it. Similarly, Gaura Babaji, as a renunciate, he was also, his mind, his consciousness was above this world, but he just displayed it in a little bit of a different way. So generally we will follow the way of, some will follow the way of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and some will follow the way of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur in their detachment, not Gaura Babaji necessarily. But we should still pray and take the dust from his feet and forever worship his example in relation to that. So we'll continue reading. He carried 2 books written by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Does anyone know what they are? Prema Bhakti Chandrika and by Narottam Das Thakur, 2 books. Yeah. Yes, Prarthana. Prarthana, collection of songs, and Prema Bhakti Chandrika was also a collection of songs. On Ekadashi, he didn't eat or drink a drop of water. Recognized him to be Mahabhagavat, many tried to serve, but he never accepted. Regularly he associated with and heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda and Swananda Sukhada Kunj and Godruma Dweep. Constantly absorbed in bhajan, Srila Babaji Maharaj had no desire to make disciples. On the request of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, however, he reconsidered. Upon seeing the true humility and deep attachment of Thakur Bhaktivinoda's son for bhajan, Srila Gaura Babaji accepted 1 disciple, Sri Varshabhanavi Dayati Das, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So it says that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he went to ask Gaura Babaji for initiation. And Babaji Maharaj, he just said, no, I don't accept any disciples. But then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur requested again, can you please accept me as a disciple? And then Gaura Babaji told him, okay, I'll ask Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, see what he says. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came back and asked Gaura Babaji, did you ask Lord Chaitanya? And then Gaura Babaji said, oh, I forgot. Sorry. So then eventually he asked him, Gaura Babaji asked Lord Chaitanya, and he told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that, yes, I asked and I didn't get, what was the word they used? Not that I didn't get blessings, but I'm not going to initiate you. That was the idea. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that I will, if I don't get initiation from you, what's the use of my life? In essence, this is what he said, and what's the use of me living? He didn't necessarily say that I'm going to commit suicide, but he said, what's the use of me living? And then Gaura Babaji, understanding that he was so sincere and serious to accept him as a disciple, he eventually accepted him. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it said that he was very impressed by Gaura Babaji. Why? Because so many people, anybody and everybody who was a bona fide spiritual master would love to have a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Even if you just look at it from a spiritual point of view, such a great disciple, such a wonderful person to have. But also those who were materially motivated gurus, they also wanted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur because he was so qualified spiritually and materially, because it's a matter of prestige. You have such a nice disciple. But he saw that Gaura Babaji was not at all impressed by his learning, by his education, by his culture, by his birth, by anything. And it said that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was thinking that either this person is extremely proud and him not accepting me, or this person's beyond this world. They're just completely beyond this world. And he realized that, yeah, he was completely beyond this world, and he said that his guru just completely smashed his pride. That's how he remembers it. And it said that after initiation, it was like a year where he said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said he lost consciousness of the external cosmos. He just was in like a trance for like a year after the initiation. And it said that Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, he was very reserved, like extremely reserved, on who he allowed to serve him, practically no one, and who he gave blessings to. Like, for example, who he let touch his feet, what to speak of him putting his feet on somebody's head. Extremely reserved. It wasn't like, sorry to bring it up, but it wasn't like Amma or something. You know, Amma, the hugging guru. She's not reserved. She'll hug thousands of people in the nighttime, you know, giving her blessings or whatever, which what's her qualification? What's her spiritual qualification? So, but Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, yeah, he's extremely reserved. But one time, Bhaktisiddhanta, he put his feet on Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's head, and he said, preach the absolute truth, leaving aside all other concerns. So he accepted it as his life's mission. And Bhaktisiddhanta and Gaura Kishora Das Babaji told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that a few different things. He said, one, you shouldn't go to Kolkata. It's a place of Kali, place of Maya. Two, you shouldn't accept disciples. Three, you shouldn't associate with materialistic people. And I always forget the fourth one. Yeah, I was just looking at it earlier, but I'm forgetting. But in terms of accepting disciples, it said that he didn't accept any disciples. That's how he sees it, that I accept all these personalities are like my gurus. My students are like my gurus. And he said, I didn't go to Calcutta. I went to Bagh this is a holy place. The temple's a holy, it's beyond Calcutta. And he said that I didn't, what was the last one? I didn't associate with materialistic peoples. I just accepted. I gave them association. I accepted it all like coming from my guru. And he said that he apparently disobeyed the orders of his guru, but he said that it was similar to like Ramanujacharya. Does anybody remember the story of Ramanujacharya? Yeah, what is it? Do you have a microphone? Maybe you can say it in the microphone.
Gave him the mantra Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then said, don't tell this to anyone else. This is your secret mantra just for you. And then he went on top of the temple and started yelling at the top of his lungs. Everyone chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. His spiritual master was bewildered. He said, why'd you do that?
Yeah, he said, why did you do that? And he said, well, I did it because I want everybody to go back to Godhead. And then the guru said, okay, that's bona fide, that's good, that's authentic. So he said that similarly, him disobeying Gaura Kishora Das Babaji was in that mood. So he did accept him. And he said that one fellow said that you, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Gaura Kishora Das Babaji, you're so different that you're out in this big cities preaching, and Gaura Kishora Das Babaji's in Mayapur and Vrindavan doing bhajan. You're so different. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, well, actually, whatever I'm doing, it's actually being empowered by him. Similarly, they're on a boat, so apparently on the boat there's different things that help a boat move. And at least within this example, somehow a battery was involved. a boat, I guess. I'm not so familiar with boats, but a battery's involved. So he said that, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that Gaura Das Babaji is like the battery, like my battery that's moving me to engage in so many activities. To keep mundane people from approaching him from material boons, he once resided in the lavatories at the Kulia Dharmashala in Kuala Dweep for 6 months. You know what lavatory is? Lavatory? You know lavatory? It's like an outhouse. You know outhouse? No, you don't know outhouse? Outhouse is like it's a primitive version of a restroom, of like a bathroom, like a toilet, where people go and it's like sometimes when you go camping or something, they don't have like systems where it's not very advanced plumbing systems, I guess you could say. So outhouse is just something. It's just like a toilet, and it just goes into the earth, and yeah. So it said that he would reside there in the lavatories. And why is that? To keep away from mundane people, asking him for mundane things, boons, and because he was a great saintly person, people come up to him and give me a boon. And he didn't want to deal with them, so that's how he was hiding from them. Babaji Maharaj locked himself inside and said he already had one. He already had a bhajan kutir. He believed that associating with materialistic people was much worse than the smell of stool in the latrine. Who could understand, right? Gaura Kishore Das Babaji advised a Calcutta doctor who wanted to open a free health clinic in Navadvip Dham. If you really want to live in Navadvip Dham, then give up your desire to run a free clinic for healing sense enjoyers. If you want to render substantial service, then renounce everything except what promotes Hari Bhajan. All other kinds of duties and services simply bind one to the ghastly cycle of karmic reactions. So this is interesting because this doctor, anyways, it's an interesting point. I don't know how people want to take or where you want to go with this information, but it's interesting because this doctor from Calcutta, it's not that he was open in a hospital in Calcutta, he was open in a hospital in Navadvip, which is the Dham, right? But still, Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, a free clinic. And Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, it's very interesting, he was saying that you shouldn't do that. And you could say, hey, well, it's Dham Vasis, right? We're taking care of Dham Vasis. What's the problem? But he didn't want to do that. He said, if you really want to live in Navadvip Dham, then give up your desire to run a free clinic for healing sense enjoyers. So, that's very interesting because the persons who would be going there are residents of Navadvip. So, of course, you could look at this many angles of vision and Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, why he said this and when he said it, what was the context, and this guy he thought obviously had a wrong idea. He was calculating things wrong for whatever reason. But anyways, it's an interesting point. Like one devotee, he was a acupuncturist here in SanDiego, Prabhupada disciple named Jai Gaur, and he would always tell us, he's like, yeah, I'm really wanting to renounce soon this job and take vanaprastha, and we were saying, well, why do you want to renounce? And he said, well, I just heal a bunch of sense enjoyers. They come and they have a back problem or this problem or that problem, and I just come and I heal them, and then they go engage in sense gratification. So how am I really helping the world? Babaji Maharaj spoke gravely to a newly married man. A Vaishnavi wife is extremely rare and difficult to find in this world. If one has the good fortune of having one, he should see it as a benediction from Krishna. The wife worships the husband as her Lord and Master. Sometimes, right? Sometimes not. Similarly, the husband should worship the wife because she is Krishna Dasi, a servant of Krishna. In this way, the husband can protect his devotional enthusiasm by not considering his wife to be his maidservant. She is always the maidservant of Krishna. Alright, so we're almost done here. One who wants bhojan, eating palatably, will spoil his bhajan. Tough instruction, huh? Means if you take prasadam that's too rich, this, that, so many things, then if it's too often, too much, then it's very difficult to do bhajan worship. That was a favorite of his quote. In other words, eating here and there simply to gratify, and this is an important point too, eating here and there simply to gratify the tongue destroys any attempts to worship Krishna. Because, you're too absorbed in the senses. Once a devotee ate some festival prasadam in his bhajan kutir. Babaji Maharaj would not speak to him for 3 days. On the 4th day he said, "You accepted festival prasadam given by low-class harlots and beautiful women? Because you took food without considering its origin, your bhajan is useless." So yeah, that's an important thing, to consider the origin of the food. Who cooked it, what was their consciousness, because that affects us. It affects us, infects our minds. And it says that those who are accustomed to taking food cooked by non-devotees, it says their mind becomes wicked and they can't remember Krishna. So, yeah, to consider where is it coming from. Now, of course, for preaching purposes, devotees like Prabhupada, he would go to all different types of people's houses, pious, Indian, you could say Hindus' houses, and he would accept food cooked from them. And Prabhupada went even so far. In Hong Kong, there was an Indian Mataji, and she wanted to cook for him. A woman wanted to cook for him. And the devotees told Prabhupada that Prabhupada, her husband eats meat. And Prabhupada, and then because it means meat is being cooked in those pots. And anybody who is strict won't eat food cooked from pots that meat has been cooked in it. And for like a Brahmin to do that means a cultured sattvic Brahmin to do that. That's just like it's not even on the radar. Like they rather die than do something like that. It's just completely muchi, just gross, because all the subtle contamination, gross contamination of that. And with the speaker consciousness. So they would never do that. I mean, if you talk to someone who's a real Brahmin, like that's just they don't even hardly step foot in a house where they eat meat, what to speak of. But Prabhupada said, and it's recorded in this book, My Glorious Master, by Borjan Prabhu, he said, I'll still accept food cooked from her. And they said, Prabhupada, but they eat meat in the same pot. I said, what can I do? I'm doing it for preaching. She said, it's my duty to serve her. It's my duty to help her advance Krishna consciousness. So, although he said that, it didn't come to that point. It never happened, but he was willing to do that. It's actually quite amazing. But in general, if it's not for preaching, if it's not for this, that, then we're supposed to be as strict as possible. And some devotees, like this devotee I know, the temple president in Salem, I heard, Gokul Chandra, it said that he doesn't accept anything that's not offered to the deity. So anything that, like for example, sometimes devotees, they eat things that we can't offer to the deities, right? But we offer to a picture of Radha Giridhari. Kind of funny. Maybe we should get a different picture, right? Like get Krishna and Radharani holding the flute or whatever. But we don't offer to Radha Giridhari, but we offer to a picture of Radha Giridhari certain things, whatever it may be, which you could say may not be, supremely tamasic, but it just may not be things that we generally offer to the deities, and it's not. So we can't offer to these for a reason. because of the nature of it, whatever it may be. But, so he won't, according to this devotee, he won't accept any of that. He just accepts nothing but what's offered to the deity. So it'll affect your mind positively, having that standard. Or at least doing that as much as possible. So we have to think, where is this coming from? And is it prasadam? Alright, so we're almost done here. The essence of Srila Gaura Babaji's instructions. Alright, this is the essence of instructions. The divine name of Krishna offers the one and only shelter. One should never try to remember Radha Damodar's transcendental pastimes by artificial methods. Constant chanting of the divine names will purify the heart. By chanting Harinam, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, will gradually reveal the spiritual form, qualities, pastimes of Sri Krishna. So that means by chanting Hare Krishna, the pastimes will be revealed to us. Artificially means to try to rack the brain and try to remember them. But it says that they'll come to us. Then you will realize your own eternal spiritual form, service, and the 11 particulars of your spiritual identity. From the holy name. In pursuance of Babaji Maharaj's statement, drag my dead body through the streets of Navadvip, means after his death. That's what he said. He said two things. He said you could put me in samadhi, here or there. He mentioned two places. Or, if that's not available, you could drag my body through the streets of Navadvip and then throw me in the Ganga. And so he was saying this out of his humility. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one is that these Babajis and false Babajis, they were trying to take his body and put it on their property. Why? Because it will attract a lot of visitors. Why? So they could get some money. You know, everybody go take darshan, and then they put money in the box. So they were doing it for mundane reasons. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur arrived on the scene. And he said, I'm the only disciple of Gaura Das Babaji, and none of you are going to take his body and put it in samadhi. I'm going to take the body and put it in samadhi. And then this was brought up. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, however, challenged them. According to Shastra, one who has carnal association with a woman within the last 24 hours is contaminated. And he said, if you have not had association with a woman in the last 6 months, you could take his body. And then he said, within the last 3 months, and then he said within the last month, and he said within the last week, and apparently according to this, he said within the last 24 hours. If you had not had association with women, then you could take his body. And then the police asked him, oh, well, how will you know if they're telling the truth? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, well, if they take his body, he said this before, if they take his body and they're not qualified to take his body, they'll be ruined. And you know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he's like very strong and he had a lot of Shakti. So, but then the police said, how will you know if they're telling the truth? And then he said, I'll take their word for it. And then what happened is, it said that they're not qualified to touch my guru. And then hearing the statement, it said that the Babajis and all these persons, they just silently, walked away. They like turned their back and they walked away. So it means they're all cheating Babajis. And in terms of, then the question brought up is that, okay, well, he said to bring his body, drag it through the streets of Navadvip. So, some people wanted to do that. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, no, we're not going to do that. He said that my spiritual master's body, even Krishna himself holds it on his head and carries. Krishna Chandra holds it on his head and carries it. We're not dragging it through the streets of Navadvip. And he brought up the pastime of Haridas Thakur, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing with Haridas Thakur after he left his body. So none of that happened, but they put him in samadhi. With his own hands, it said Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur put him in samadhi, dug a hole and put him there. And it said that after this, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was completely disheartened, depressed. He was saying, Bhaktivinoda Thakur just left too. So he said, who's going to read my articles? Who's going to chastise me? Who's going to correct me? Who am I going to associate with? And where am I going to go for guidance? And he was and it said for days he was just lamenting and not coming out. And devotees were starting to get worried. And it said that at one point he had like a dream, which was more like a vision. And Gaura Kishora's Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it said even the Panchatattva were there. And they appeared to him and they said, in essence, do not worry, continue your preaching, we're going to provide everything, just go on worshipping and serving the Dham and Krishna's name and Krishna's desire, and everything's going to work out. And you're completely blessed by us. And they said that he came out after that, and he was like shining, bright and shining. All the devotees, they asked him what happened, and he told them. So then it says, on 19th November 1915, Gaura Kishora's Babaji Maharaj joined the eternal blissful pastimes of Gandharvika Giridhari. His beloved disciple, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, established his samadhi on the banks of the Sri Chaitanya Mat's Radha Kund, near Lord Chaitanya's Yoga Pit in Sridham Mayapur. And then in the spiritual world, he's Guna Manjari. All right, Srila Gaura Kishora's Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No? What's for breakfast? Nothing. No breakfast today. Fasting till noon. We usually do the Puspanjali, so what are we going to do? Because I think devotees are planning on going out, right? What do we do? Just not do it? Or I don't think there's going to be one person here scheduled to be here to do it, right? What are we supposed to do? Huh? Do it in the evening? Interesting idea. Well, maybe like at 6. Does anybody see? There's this Damodar Ashtakam, the Sanskrit, and then there's the English. We want to make Ye Nila Prema Dana like these, like the song we just sang earlier. Does anybody know how to do that? Like arrange it in such a way that. Huh? I know you could do it on a computer. Not going to handwrite it, right? But does anybody know how to do it? You know how to do it? We were looking for a volunteer here. That's what I'm. It's easy for you? All right. So you're volunteering? Yeah, FedEx or something. Because we want many of these. We want like 10. Exactly like this. Both sides, long, like this. Not like a big paper with the song all out like that. We want exactly like this. All right. Okay, so you said it in front of the deities. You agreed? You agreed before the deities, for the devotees, for the online audience. They all have. Try your best. What is this? Like, we're not asking you to go to India and start temples or something. We'll put you on a boat from New York City. We'll drop you off in a random city in India and you could start some temples there. We're not asking that, just this. All right, Jen.